Before Sister Sage ever stood beside Homelander and the boys, she was already the most dangerous person in the room. And the scariest part is, almost nobody realized it. Sage is not powerful because she can fly, laser people in half, or punch through walls. She is powerful because she understands people better than they understand themselves. She sees patterns before anyone else notices they exist. She can predict behavior, manipulate emotion, and turn entire systems against themselves without ever raising her voice. In a world full of gods pretending to be men, Sage is the one human who knows exactly how to control gods. That is why Homelander was drawn to her. At first, it looked like he wanted advice. Someone smarter. Someone who could help him stabilize Vought, control the Seven, and rebuild his image. But Homelander never looks for equals. He looks for mirrors. He wanted someone who could tell him he was right. Someone who could justify the chaos in his head. But Sage was never there to worship him. She was there to study him. Every conversation between them feels less like a partnership and more like an experiment. She watches him the way a scientist watches a bomb with a timer attached. She knows his greatest weakness is not physical strength, it is emotional dependence. Homelander is obsessed with love, terrified of rejection, and constantly searching for someone to validate the monster he has become. Sage saw that immediately. And that is where the real theory begins. What if Sister Sage's true plan was never about helping Homelander rule? What if she were building a way to control him forever? There is a growing theory that Sage may have access to an early version of Compound V, something unstable, unfinished, and far more dangerous than the perfected formula Vought created. A prototype. A first attempt. Let's call it V1. Not a serum designed to create heroes. A formula designed to create dependence. Imagine something that doesn't make Homelander stronger, but weaker in one specific way. Mentally. Something that regulates rage, suppresses instability, and slowly makes him reliant on whoever controls the supply. Not poison, not a weapon, a leash. And if Sage holds that leash, then she holds the only real power in the world. But here's where it gets darker. Because Homelander is not the only variable in her equation. There is still one shadow hanging over him. Soldier Boy. The father. The original American monster. The one person Homelander cannot emotionally escape. Soldier Boy represents everything Homelander fears. Rejection, weakness, and the truth that he was never special, only manufactured. If Soldier Boy returns, Sage could use that conflict as the final stage of her plan. Homelander is desperate for approval. Soldier Boy is driven by pride. Two unstable gods crashing into each other while Sage stands in the center, controlling the outcome. She wouldn't need to defeat them physically. She would let them destroy each other, then step forward as the only person left who understands how the game works. That may be Sister Sage's real master plan. Not serving Homelander. Not replacing Homelander, but proving that the smartest person alive never needed powers to rule the world. Only patience, prediction, and the perfect formula. Because while everyone is waiting for Homelander to fall, Sister Sage may already know exactly where he lands. And the most terrifying part of that theory is this: Homelander may already suspect it, and still be too late to stop it. Because for all his power, Homelander has one fatal flaw. He cannot tell the difference between loyalty and usefulness. If someone stays close to him, he assumes it means devotion. But Sage understands something deeper. Proximity is power. The closer she gets, the less he notices the knife. Look at how she operates. She never challenges him directly unless she knows the reaction she'll get. She pushes, pulls back, then lets him believe every decision was his own. That is not friendship. That is psychological architecture. She is building a version of Homelander she can predict. And if V1 exists, that process becomes even more dangerous. Because dependency is not always chemical, it can be emotional first. If Sage becomes the one person Homelander trusts to understand him, then the formula doesn't even need to start in a lab. It starts in his mind. He begins to need her. Her approval. Her strategy. Her calm. The serum would only make physical what she has already created psychologically. That is how real control works, not domination, dependency. And then there is Ryan. Because if Soldier Boy is Homelander's past, Ryan is his future, the son he wants to shape into proof that he can be loved. But Ryan is also unpredictable. He is still human enough to feel guilt, fear, and moral conflict. Something Homelander lost a long time ago. Sage would see Ryan not as a child but as leverage. Imagine the final stage of her plan. Soldier Boy returns, forcing Homelander into emotional collapse. Ryan begins pulling away, rejecting the man his father is becoming. Homelander spirals. His need for control becomes desperation. And right there, Sage offers the solution. Stability, protection, a way to keep everything from falling apart. He takes it because he believes he is choosing power. But really, he is surrendering it. That is why Sister Sage may be the true final villain of the boys, not because she is evil in the traditional sense, but because she understands that the strongest man alive can still be ruled by fear. Homelander thinks battles are won with force. Sage knows they won with inevitability. She does not need laser eyes. She does not need invulnerability. She only needs time. And if Soldier Boy is the weapon, Ryan is the pressure point, and V1 is the leash, then Homelander was never building an empire. He was walking into a trap designed by the only person smart enough to build one. The question is not whether Sister Sage can control Homelander. The real question is whether she already has. Because once you start looking at Sister Sage this way, every move she makes stops feeling random and starts looking like long-term design. Take Vought, for example. Most people assume Sage joined Homelander simply to survive. Stay close to the strongest man alive, avoid becoming a target, and enjoy the protection that comes with being useful. But Sage is too intelligent for survival to be her endgame. She doesn't think in days, she thinks in systems. Vought is not just a company, it is the machine that created Homelander, controlled superheroes, manufactured patriotism, and sold fear as entertainment. If you truly wanted to change the world, you would not destroy that machine, you would take control of it. And Homelander is both the face of that machine and its biggest weakness. He is unstable, emotional, and impossible to govern long-term. Sage knows that. Everyone knows that. The difference is that Sage may be the only one with a real solution. Let Homelander believe he is the king while quietly removing every piece of independence he has left. That includes the Seven. Notice how every member around Homelander either fears him, worships him, or wants to escape him. None of them can actually manage him. But Sage doesn't fit any of those categories. She is not intimidated. She is not impressed. And that makes her irreplaceable. She becomes the translator between Homelander and the world. The only person who can explain him. The only person who can calm him. The only person who can make the empire function. That position is more powerful than being queen. It is becoming the mind behind the throne. And this is where Soldier Boy becomes essential again. Because Soldier Boy is not just a personal threat to Homelander, he is proof that power can be replaced. Once the greatest hero in America, now a discarded relic. If Homelander sees Soldier Boy return, he is forced to confront the one truth he cannot accept. He is not permanent. That fear would make him reckless. And reckless people are easier to control. Sage would not stop that confrontation. She would encourage it, quietly, carefully. Let father and son tear open old wounds. Let pride become violence. Let both men expose exactly how fragile they really are. Then, when the dust settles, who is left standing? Not the strongest, the smartest. That is why V1 matters so much in this theory, because it represents the final evolution of control, not fists, not politics, not public image, biological obedience, a formula that ensures Homelander can never truly operate without her again. And if Soldier Boy was once the weapon used to humble him physically, V1 would be the weapon used to break him permanently. Not by killing him, by making him need permission to remain himself. That is a fate worse than death for someone like Homelander. Because death ends fear. Dependence makes you live inside it. And Sister Sage would know that. She would know that the cruelest punishment for a god is not destruction, It is proving he was never truly in control at all. And if that happens, then the final tragedy of Homelander's story won't be that he was defeated by Billy Butcher, by Soldier Boy, or even by the world turning against him. It will be that he was outplayed by the one person he believed was beneath him. Because Homelander's greatest blind spot has always been intelligence without spectacle. He respects power only when it looks like power. Strength, fear, violence, domination. He understands fists. He understands blood. But strategy? Patience? Quiet manipulation? Those things barely register to him until it is too late. That is exactly why Sister Sage is so dangerous. She doesn't need to threaten him. She lets him underestimate her. In fact, that may be the foundation of her entire plan. The smartest predator is the one prey never notices. Think about the symbolism. Homelander is the perfect product of Vought, manufactured strength, public worship, and the illusion of absolute control. Sage is the opposite. No cape mythology, no shining symbol, no need for applause. She represents truth, and truth is always more dangerous than propaganda. Because once Homelander realizes he is not the mastermind of his own empire, everything begins to collapse. His confidence becomes paranoia. His love turns into suspicion. His dependence becomes rage. And rage is the one thing Sage can predict better than anyone. She would know exactly how he breaks. Maybe that is why she never seems rushed. She doesn't need immediate victory because she is playing the final move before anyone else has understood the game. She is not reacting to chaos. She is arranging it. And there is one final layer to this theory that makes it even darker. What if V1 was never just for Homelander? What if it was built for succession? Ryan, the child who could become stronger, smarter, and more emotionally dangerous than his father ever was. If Homelander is unstable power, Ryan is unformed power. A blank future, and Sage would never leave the future to chance. If she can control Homelander, she can study Ryan. If she can study Ryan, she can prepare for what comes next. Because true masterminds do not think about defeating one king. They think about controlling the dynasty. That would mean Sage is not planning for Season 4, she is planning for the end of the entire story. Soldier Boy as the fraction. Homelander is the collapse. Ryan is the inheritance. And V1 as the thread connecting all of it. Suddenly, Sister Sage is no longer just a new character introduced to challenge Homelander. She becomes the architect of his downfall. The person who understands that monsters are easiest to defeat when you convince them they are still winning. And if that theory is true, then the final scene of Homelander may not be some giant explosive battle in the sky. It may be something much quieter. A moment where he realizes the truth, that every decision he thought was his wasn't. That every step toward absolute power was actually a step deeper into someone else's design. That the smartest woman in the world never came to save him. She came to finish the experiment Vought started. And by the time Homelander understands that, the cage will already be locked.